Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Olajide Bello. First, the headlines. Nigeria and India sign agreements on several areas of cooperation as Prime Minister Narendra Modi bags national honors. President Tinubu to participate in G20 Leaders Summit in Brazil. APC candidate Lucky Aiyedatiwa wins Ondo governorship election. Nigeria and India have signed a memorandum of understanding on new areas of collaboration to further strengthen the bilateral ties between both countries. This was a major outcome of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to Nigeria on the invitation of President Bola Tinubu. State House correspondent Musbah Adenwaha reports that the president conferred on his guest a national honor of the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger.
Again, the meeting of two willing partners. A partnership fast transforming from just bilateral relationship into a cordial friendship. This is a reverse order of their earlier meeting in New Delhi barely a year ago. President Tinubu's attendance of the 18th G20 Leaders Summit as a special guest and his meeting with Prime Minister Modi September last year culminated in some agreements that were poised to double the trade volume between the two countries that had, at the time, got close to $15 billion. Now, the relationship is becoming as cordial as it could ever get, with Prime Minister Modi visiting Nigeria, first by any Indian leader in 17 years. There are long-standing cooperations on education, energy, health, technology, and culture, among others. The partnerships are now growing wider, with agreements signed on survey cooperation, culture and exchange program, as well as customs cooperation.
Nigeria values its excellent relationship with India, and we work to broaden the same for mutual benefit of our two friendly countries. You stood side by side with Nigeria on many fronts for many decades. I'm confident that our discussions will enhance Nigerian-India relations on the basis of mutual respect and shared mission.
Today will add a new chapter in our relations, and together we will also continue to highlight at a global level the priorities of the Global South. And thanks to our joint efforts, we will achieve success as well in this.
And not just as fair weather friends, both parties are also willing to face their challenges together.
I would like to express condolences for the loss of lives caused by the floods. To support your relief efforts, India is sending 20 tons of humanitarian aid to Nigeria. Excellency.
The state visit dovetailed into a special launch where President Bola Tinubu decorated his guest with the second highest national honor in the land, Grand Commander of the Order of Niger, GCON. Again, it's ending in a warm handshake that will further shape the relations in years to come. From the State House, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
India and Nigeria have shown their support and commitment to strengthening the already existing relationship with the two countries following a two-day visit of the Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to Nigeria. India's Secretary on Economic Relations, Damu Ravi, made this known during a press briefing in Abuja. Francis Udojo has the details.
Damu Ravi at the press briefing described the visit of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi as unprecedented, with bilateral cooperation focusing in the field of trade and investment, security, education and health.
As you all are aware, the India-Nigerian relationship is very strong, underpinned by a strong economic cooperation and trade and investment. There are about 200 Indian companies who have invested about $27 billion in this country, and the two leaders have discussed ways to further expand this economic partnership for the mutual benefit of the two countries.
The high delegation level talks, Damuravi said, will also enhance strategic partnership in agriculture, railway transportation, as well as job creation, scholarships, and partnership in digital education program.
Both leaders have also discussed global and regional issues, and in that context, they have reiterated their commitment to further deepen their commitment to the Global South and how to take forward the agenda of the Global South in the global discourse.
Damuravi also emphasized that President Bola Tinubu, in keeping India-Nigeria relationship, conferred a national honor of the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger on Modi for his contributions to India-Nigeria ties, an honor he said India as a country deeply appreciates. This makes Mr. Modi the first foreign leader to be conferred with such national award in Nigeria since 1969. In Abuja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to attend the 19th meeting of the G20 Leaders Summit taking place in the South American country. The presidential airplane took off from the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about 7 o'clock Sunday evening. A statement by the presidential advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, implies that the Nigerian leaders' participation at the instance of the Brazilian president and current president of the group, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The summit, holding from Monday, November 18 to Tuesday 19, will bring together leaders from the world's top 20 economies, including the European Union, the African Union, and multilateral financial institutions, among others. President Tinubu is also expected to hold bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit on advancement of Nigeria's socio-economic reforms. He is expected to return to Nigeria at the end of the visit. And Senegal on Sunday voted in a parliamentary election with the country's new leadership, aiming for resounding a majority to see through the promise of ambitious reforms that swept them to power 8 months ago. And coalition results commence in Gabon's referendum polls. Chukunonso Nwabweze reports.
The polls, which opened 8 a.m. and closed 6 p.m. local time, saw more than 7 million registered voters cast their ballots for candidates of their choice in the 165-seat assembly for the next 5 years. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, who was among the early electors to vote, sued for calm. Top priorities for voters are jobs and the economy, which President Diomaye Faye pledged to transform with the needed majority in the parliament. Analysts say Senegalese voters have historically confirmed their presidential choice during parliamentary elections, and the ruling Pastef party is the favorite to win. Former President Macky Sall is leading an opposition grouping from abroad, breaking with the political restraint normally adopted by former leaders in the West African nation. Reliable projections of the new parliament's composition is expected by Monday. In a related development, counting and collation of results is ongoing in Gabon's referendum on whether to approve a new constitution for the country that would allow presidential candidates to be exclusively Gabonese, amongst other amendments. Reports put the voters' turnout at over 70%. Chukunonso Nwabweze, NTA News.
Venezuelan authorities have freed 225 people detained in protest against disputed re-election of President Nicolas Maduro on July 2024. Chukunonso Nwabweze again reports.
Venezuelan prosecutor's office said the releases were granted and executed for people tried for the post-July 28 election violence following a large-scale review of their cases. Human rights group Follow Penel had independently confirmed the release of 107 people by Saturday evening. Over 2,400 people were arrested during the unrest that followed the re-election of Nicolas Maduro, which the opposition alleged was fraudulent. The violence left at least 28 dead and nearly 200 people injured, according to prosecutors. The detainees are said to include 164 minors, 69 of whom are allegedly still being held. Hundreds of relatives had been protesting to demand the release of their loved ones, saying they had no part in the protests. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado had praised the efforts of human rights groups in securing the release of detainees. Chukunonsonwa Boeze, NTA News.
Survey has shown Africa's transport sector accounts for almost 1/3 of its total energy-related carbon emissions, with rapid urbanization and increasing transportation demands expected to lead to a rise in greenhouse gases. However, forecasts from side engagements in Baku is that these emissions could be reduced by 130% by 2050 if Nigeria and Africa fully go the way of CNG and electric vehicles development. Charles Alpha reports.
The transportation sector is vital in the process of globalizing products and services. However, the rise in air pollution from substantial energy consumption from non-renewable fossil resources is having adverse effects, specifically on the bulk of African nations. There is growing acknowledgement that greenhouse gases are responsible for climate change, and the combined utilization of fossil fuels across several industries account for more than 70% of the overall greenhouse gas emission on a global scale. Conversations here are on the huge potential Nigeria has and how can Africa revolutionize its energy sectors through investment in electric vehicles and renewable energy development.
If you look at it, for example, the largest polluting sector is the transportation sector, and we're 200 million people. In less than 30 years, we're projected to be about 500 million people. So imagine the number of cars. Therefore, Nigeria must, at this stage, begin to look at alternatives. And the best alternative is electric vehicles.
Although the Nigerian government has long begun the procurement of CNG buses and conversion of combustive to electric cars, affordability, establishment of more conversion and charging centers to cater for the need of many developing countries, delegates here believe are gaps that must be closed.
That is why we are here. We've done the pilot to prove that it's workable and it's doable. And that's why we are here looking for partnerships and funding from different private and the national government for that transition.
The government has set up an enabling environment that you can do this business by reducing the tax so that you're able to import all those components, so that you're able to assemble it in Nigeria.
Decarbonizing the transportation sector in Africa, starting with Nigeria, some say requires